Hello, welcome to an Hour of Devastation and Amonkhet Draft. This is X-Year 21 on puremtgo.com. Thank you for viewing, and hopefully we've already looked over the draft and my deck, so we'll go and get started with game one of match one here. I win the die roll, and I get a starting hand that is perfectly fine. It has removal and some of my better cards overall. So I go ahead and keep. My opponent molds to 6, and we get started. They started off with a Reason to Believe, which is an interesting card. I'm not sure I would ever want to play it on turn 1 like that, just because it makes the other half nowhere near as good. And then I just continue to draw land. My opponent plays a tap land, and I finally make the first real play of the game with the Merciless Eternal. With my Avon Reed Stalker, I'm quite excited to have the chance to just eat the aerial guide because, as I said when I was drafting, as I was drafting, I really think a lot of people are unaware of the Reed Stalker. I actually watched a couple of times at the pre-release when people attacked right into it and didn't know it was coming. And so I think it's actually quite good for now. It'll probably still be fine afterwards, but when people are not expecting it, especially early on, it's working out quite well. And as you can see here, I get to cast it, and he has no responses, so I just get to eat his Windrake, which is quite a good card, so I'm very happy to get that. And he plays a Watchful Naga, which is fine. At this point, I have a couple of options. I can basically either play my lifelink guy or play this to remove a creature and also drop the cartouche. I decide to just get that out there. It can block this if he wants to take a card for it. That's fine with me. I feel pretty comfortable with the board, so I don't need the giant creature on there. And at this point, I think he's just deciding to throw away his Naga for a new card, which again is fine with me because that means he wasted a turn and 3 mana on it. This is another card that I played at the pre-release. I thought it was actually very good, especially if you can get any kind of enchantment on it, and so it's quite good. Another important thing to note is you can attack with the 0-power creature. So I had one opponent put a -1/-1 counter on it, and I was still able to attack with the 0/2 and draw cards until they were able to finally block it. So that was quite good. I think it's actually a very strong card. At this point, I just decided to go as aggro as I can. I'm not concerned about him drawing cards at this point, as I have quite a commanding board state lead at this point. So I decided to just keep plowing ahead. I decide to not play that in the hopes of cycling it. It does actually help out the Unquenchable Thirst, as it will tap it when it comes into play, which also gives me the option of attempting to kill him this next turn. Although he ends up playing that to gain some life, which throws off the plan of being able to kill him the next turn. And then he plays the Sure Shot, which, considering I have flyers, I'm going to have to immediately Unquenchable Thirst. Sorry about the rush through there. I must have accepted a double click, because that's how MTGO works, unfortunately. And again, I was fine with leaving nothing back to block this. I'm not concerned about him drawing cards at this point, especially since I have removal in hand, and I have enough to kill him multiple ways at this point. So he plays this just essentially hoping that he hits something good. He has something that would normally be quite good, but in this situation it's not particularly useful since I have flyers. And then once he plays that, I have the game locked up as he has no flying blockers, and I have 5 power in the air for his 3 life. And there he concedes. See you in the next game. Alright, so we're up a game, and my opponent chooses to play first. This hand might be a little bit of a questionable of a keep since I had no swamps to start with. I had the Cartouche and the Reed Stalker, so I was pretty okay with keeping it just on the hope that I draw a swamp. Not the best hand, but not a terrible one either. My opponent plays a Plains this time around, which he's already that means he's playing 4 colors, and that's quite brave in draft, especially since he seems to be base blue, and green would usually be the color that lets you most support being 4 colors. And here he plays this 1/1 Eternalize, which I honestly don't think is very good. By the time you can Eternalize it, I would hope that that extra little bit of the having a 4/4 isn't necessarily going to threaten you that much. So I walk my creature into a counter here. He hadn't shown a counter last time, so I had no reason to anticipate it, but it's not that surprising. I'm not that concerned, though, as I'd actually rather him not counter this, because that does a lot more work. Unfortunately, he does play that again. Given what he's shown me so far, and the fact that he is playing 4 colors, I'm not that concerned about him drawing cards, because his deck's probably pretty shaky to start with, so a few extra cards isn't going to hurt me that much. Sorry, Magic Online was having some issues with the replay there. I passed my turn just playing a land and getting ready to pop out the Reed Stalker, and we were back to my opponent's turn again. Sorry, it's being quite finicky. He attacked with his Eternalized creature, and I played out my Reed Stalker and blocked, and then I attacked on my turn. He played an Aerial Drake, or the Aerial Guide, and I left up 5 mana as an option to just remove one of his creatures. Arguably I should have done it on my turn, since he has mana up to technically be able to counter it. So I'm not sure why I didn't, other than I guess maybe I wanted to wait and see if he had something better. He doesn't, so I just remove that so he can't draw any more cards. And then he plays the Seeker of Insight, which is a card that I've never actually seen played before, as it's just, looters are very good, but a looter with a requirement to do anything is not very good. And even though both my creatures have flying here, I decided I want to play the Cartouche just to both buff the Shadowstorm Vizier so it can block the Aerial Guide, and to draw the extra card, since I have a lot of land at this point. And so I just keep getting in with damage. As you can tell, my opponent is quite hosed on land, which, if you're playing 4 colors and you're hosed on land, it's probably not a good sign. I'm not overly concerned about him getting to attack me for 3, so I'd rather get in for the damage now. Plus, it actually, since this lets me discard and to pump it, I can use the Tragic Lesson here just to get an extra damage. And it's pretty easy to just discard here. I have this Hour of Eternity, so that's why I'm fine dropping the Spellweaver Eternal in there. I wanted to keep the land here because 7 land lets me hit 2 creatures with this, and so that's why I did that. And then, of course, I just play out my own aerial guide. My opponent hits his land, and he plays more accelerant. See, this is what I was talking about. He seems base blue, but he's using green to support his splashes. And so it just seems very strange to try and be 4 colors if green's not your base. Here he discarded the Manticore of the Gauntlet, which, since he could play it now, I'm actually a little bit surprised that he would do that. It is his big creature, although I only have flying creatures, so maybe it's not that useful to him. But I have to imagine it'd be better than this card, for instance. So here I happen to draw a removal spell, and I decided to put it on there just to lessen that. I'm also going to attack with my aerial guide here. I figure he'll trade, and again I can end up having a 4/4 flyer afterwards with my Hour of Eternity. So I'm fine with the trade, and at that point I'd rather get that guy a little bit lower, that way he can't just block this forever. My opponent plays probably what drew him into green, since it seems he was pretty late to it. I mean, as I've only seen Almaket green, I don't know if I would actually switch into green just for this card at that point, as you still need to get the green to cast it, as it took him quite a while to get to that point, as we saw. And then he again plays the first half of the Reason to Believe, which actually works quite well, of course, with the Vizier of the Menagerie. And when he attacked, I went ahead and just killed his Cunning Survivor. Since the Hour of Eternity brings creatures back, I can bring back this guy as a removal spell again. So here I'm actually hoping to hit a land and continue that way. I have enough mana to bring back the Aerial Guide and the Punisher, which lets me kill off the Menagerie, and at that point I have 8 flying in the air. I don't want him to use any of its abilities, so I just immediately kill it. And at this point I'm fairly comfortable with my chances of winning. Even if my opponent, as my opponent does here, he plays the Locust God, which is quite good, and now shows me probably where he started off. But I have enough in the air that he really can't actually hold me back. Even if I attack with everything and we trade here, because he has to block it, the next turn I still have 2 power flyers that can kill him. So of course I do attack with everything because I need to keep the pressure on. I'm not going to be able to beat the Locust God in the long game, so at this point I need to make him have no choice but to play it that way. I actually drew something that's very useful in the situation, because even if he plays a couple of flyers and gets rid of things, I have a creature that won't be blocked if I can discard a card. And of course, the Locust God does return to his hand. But he plays it again and realizes that that means he has no chance, and so he concedes. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in match 2.